I did make this clear enough, did I not, start with I assume all of you know that in the city, whether they would say it or not, they would have to agree that being objective would be the finest compliment to someone's exercise of intelligence. I assume you all, I didn't state that outright, but that would be the banner. That would be the stupor mundi in the city of a definition of an overt example of intelligence would be somebody who was objective. The brain floating in the formaldehyde. Just the facts, just the facts, just the facts. A computer. The thing is, there is nothing in human activity that is in any way free from personal feeling. Now, only somebody with a new intelligence recognizes that personal feeling is nothing personal. That you're sitting at the banquet table of life, you're sitting at the poker game, and somebody brings up the subject of baseball, and the guy over here goes, "Hey, oh boy," and he starts talking. And the guy next to you, on this side, goes, "God, are sports dumb or what?" And then the guy past him goes, "Baseball." In the city, they believe, all right, we've got three examples of personal feeling here. One guy loves baseball, another guy hates sports in general, another guy down there doesn't even seem to know what baseball is, doesn't seem to have any interest. So we got at least three personal feelings. And if you were ordinary sitting there, you would take them personally, right? Let us say that you love sports. Let us say that you are an attorney who represents, that your life, your practice is based upon representing sports figures. Then you've kind of got a personal feeling about this guy over here saying we ought to do something in government or to clamp down on sports. It's too close to being violating antitrust laws. It's destroying the educational system at the college level. We ought to do something. Well, you've got a personal feeling about him already. Besides, he's going to be a terrible eating partner for another hour, some old sorehead, right? There is an interconnected dance going on. There is the flow of blood through life. Not just the blood in your veins, there's another blood that you people cannot see that's going through the whole body of life. Ours is just part of it. If you've got blood, you have got passion. If you don't like passion, I'll put passion/heat. And if you don't like heat, remember heat is just one form of energy. So put /energy. If you do not have feeling about something, there is no energy. You're not transferring any energy. You cannot extract any energy from it. You got no interest in it. You are not being fed from it. You are not dancing with it. If it's going on, life needs it. It's feeding some part of life's body. It may not be necessary that you be interested in it. That was a literal statement. That was not as casual as it sounded. It does not need your participation, obviously. Now, you can be against it, which is fine. But you may have no interest in it. You're not going to find many areas that you could say that about, even if you could be and say it objectively. But it just shows that life does not need, as wonderful as you are individually. Now, I know it, and you know it. But as wonderful and as talented and as intelligent as you are, you got to face this. For every little chicken shit thing life does, it doesn't necessarily need you, right? Well, hell, look how busy you are thinking about the big stuff. So it gets down to little things like baseball or accounting, weather forecasting, ballroom dancing, politics. You know, you're thinking about big stuff, and so some of these areas, I'm sure some of you that I may have just mentioned, you got no interest in. It just shows that life does not like to bother a very intelligent and busy person like yourself with every little something. Think about it. And if I ask you specifically, which some of you I don't have to ask you, when you first came here, you wrote me notes and all kinds. I didn't know. All I had to do was just kind of look like, well, you can send me a note, and immediately your notes are about, boy, the terrible ways I feel. God, you don't know how bad I feel at times, how nutty I feel. As though it was something that could be cut out of you, something you could be weaned from. Now, I've talked to you people enough and tried to sketch out enough that you have got to still be here profitably. See some of this on your own to realize that there is nothing, nobody that was arranged particularly in life, the so-called environment, but your life, that made you feel like you feel. If you still believe that, I got to say again, my God, what are you doing here? Now, you may not understand it much past that point, but you've got to be up to that point to not take the way you feel personally. Your mother didn't make you feel that way. Your father didn't make you feel that way. The dance they did together didn't make you feel that way. You've simply got to face this, that at the very least, you do not know why you have the feelings you have. And I don't mean that in some almost theoretical way. Or almost, you think that I want you to be that way, and so you think, well, I'll try. And every time you say, I'll try, then your partner, under his breath, mumbles, my mother was still a bitch, though. Well, I'll try. Your mother could have been a bitch, your father could have been a bastard. Doesn't matter. You do not really know anything. I have wasted my time, other than, of course, whenever. If you do not understand that the way you feel is not attributable to anything or anybody that you could begin to point to, no matter what everybody else in the city says, no matter if your mother says, it's my fault, and your brother says, yeah, it is her fault. I don't care if all of Freudian psychology, or post-Freudian psychology would point, your father, your mother, your orphanhood when you were a kid. There's simply no explaining the way you feel. None. Now, if you're not up to that point, you're not up to any point. You're not even on the compass. You're not even on the plane. You're still back on the line. You're still in one dimension. You're still under the guise of chief one eye, not even two eyes. So, it is not a problem that you're too much victim of your feeling. It's not a problem of getting free from feeling. It's not the problem that people normally express so casually, that I feel too much. I wish I was not so emotional. I wish I was not such a feeling person. That's not it. Because I've tried to describe enough of you listening tonight. That's not it. If you could have that wish, you'd die. Literally. They say, I feel too much. And they say, are you a famous mystic? And I say, yes. And they say, well, no. Here's the keys to my new Corvette. Can you make me not feel so much? And I say, no problem. And I do it. And they die. If I said, all right, I can work magic. I'm in charge of that. And the guy says, or a woman says, all right, one thing I won't change is I'm too much victim of my feeling. I'm too emotional. And I said, all right, I can take care of that. No problem. But let me ask you something. Now, wait a minute before I do this. In specifically, what ways are you too emotional? And what would they say? Always. Did anybody understand? That's why in the city, that's why on the 3D level, only some success is possible, because they have to, that life wires up the idea that what we've got to have is total success. And even what they say is total success is still only partial reality, that they can't see what it's connected to when they get into the fourth even, much less the fifth dimension. And so they holler out if they say, all right, I'm too emotional. And I say, I can cure it. But which emotions? All emotions. What the hell? Quit stalling. You said you could do it. Yeah, but tell me which ones. All of them. And so if I said, okay, and I did it, they'd die. Die. In the city, people are not judicious. Somebody says, I want to lose weight. How much you want to lose? Oh, hell, 100 pounds. Well, I don't know if you can do it. Just start making me lose weight. And when I get low enough, I'll tell you. But their thing is they don't know. How smart you want to be? Just as smart as you can be. How strong do you want to be? I want to be the biggest, strongest person in the world. Which habits do you want to break? All habits. I don't want any habit. At any rate, there's an equation in there that I'm not going to try to explain to you people, because 3 dimensions will not contain it. But by life having things arranged, this is a little off the subject, but I've talked about this before, and not many of you heard it, and I got your attention. Life is arranged into the nervous system, what we call the intellectual level, in men, that they scream out, they don't know it, they don't put it this way, but they scream out for absolutes. That is, cure me of all habits. Free me from all feelings. I'm too emotional. Which emotions? All emotions. That, all across the board, is the way men are driven to think in the city, and for a reason that the equation won't fit. It won't hold just in the 3D world, but there is one that I know. I can see it. I know it. Is by demanding such it's not possible to have full success even at that level. By demanding complete success, it's a foregone. It's ordained that all you'll get is some success. It's weird. Well, it's weird in the city, but once you see it, you go, well, hell, that explains everything. Well, perhaps not everything. It doesn't explain the one shoe in the road syndrome, but even I don't fool with that. I don't think about that. As I was saying, in the city, that his ordinary intelligence cannot be judicious. Can it? Now, it can in behavior. By judicious, I mean it can make halting steps. But when it thinks about what it should be doing, when it is planning for action, its actions may be judicious. That is, in the sense that, well, I'm not going to jump off the cliff. I'll take a little step here and I'll try to change a little bit. But their thinking is, the planning, the part of the nervous system up here, is always whole hog. Well, I can't do it. I'm going to work up. But as soon as I get my bearings here and get a little more comfortable staying here on the edge, by God, I'm going to leap. The hell with it. I just leap and I'll do it. That's what I'll do. All right, I'll start cutting down on drinking. All right, I've been drinking a quart a day. All right, I'm going to cut it down to a pint a day. And I'll say, I got to get my system accustomed to this. And I'll do that for a week, more or less, and now I cut it down to a pint. But by then I'll be so strong, I'll go, fuck you, old demon rum, and I won't drink any. That's what I'll do. I'll just jump off and do it all. Do you hear that? By their own thinking, humans can never achieve full success because they demand in their thinking full success. And therefore it can't be had. Even at the 3D level, which full success wouldn't be even full success. But they would think it would, but they can't even experience that. That is where I started to try and clear it up when I point out that people in the city are not judicious. You have got to be judicious. You've got to know where to kick. You've got to know where to make the right step. You can't waste your damn time forever. And your time is this. You cannot waste your energy. So none of you are crying out, I feel too much. I know exactly what you mean when you say it, or you say, I am too emotional. I know exactly what you mean. And it doesn't have to be anything individual to any of you. I'm not thinking of anybody individually. But everyone believes that to varying degrees. And once I point out in this particular way, and if I said, all right, don't you believe it would be better if you could run your life from now on, as much as possible, free from feeling, based on fact? Right, you would say. Especially if I had the right facts. That was redundant. I don't know why you even laughed at that, except if you're laughing at the low level of functional intelligence of all of us at the city level. Now, because what they'd be meaning by that, I say it's redundant when they'd say the right facts. All they're saying then is, all right, facts that I got, well, let's say that from me, but it's facts that you gave me free from personal feeling and prejudice on my part, right? Right. And then I would take them free from my personal feeling. Then we'd be dealing with real facts. That's the way I want to run my life. You wouldn't have a life. You'd be dead. Life would be dead. Think about it. The life of body, the body of life, has a preference every time, generally speaking. Just forget the areas that life doesn't have an interest in, because you can't see that. Life, as far as humans can tell at this level, has an interest in everything, or else it wouldn't exist. Do you hear me? Even you may not have an interest in sports. Life has a need for what we call human sports, and it has a preference. Now, I don't mean which team wins. It has a preference in sports, or sports would not exist for you to have no interest in, for instance, you individually. Life has a preference for anything of which you can be aware. It would not have two possibilities at the very minimal unless it had a preference. The preference is to grow, to become more complex, which is another form of increased intelligence. And it's doing specifically on one level that you can see. A few people can see. And that is through humans. You can see it. Regardless if something may be going on, and I'm not trying to stir up anybody's useless imagination, it could be going on at the level of stars, galaxies. But I'm pointing out what you in your lifetime, right here on this planet with no science fiction and no talking to UFOs or dead Indians, you can see that life is becoming more complex. Not individuals, although they're dragged along. Not the human race, although it's pulled right with it. Life is becoming more complex, and to be more complex is to be increased in your intelligence. It is a gradual process, but when it happens in one person's lifetime is why I have to designate a cutoff line to make it a quantum picture. It's what I call new intelligence. Because if it happens in one person's lifetime, that one person can begin to see this, the one person being you, if you can see it, it deserves a new name, and you'll know it has a new name. You'll know what I mean, that this is not the way I have always thought. And it's really got nothing to do with information, it's got nothing to do with facts. What it's got to do with is enriched blood. What it has got to do with is a judicious way to use the passion of being alive, your preference for being alive. Because if you do not share the general preference that I have just adequately described, trust me, I'm on better terms with Larry than you are, you know that, and we're all in trouble. Let me tell you, his preference, the body of life, the preference is to grow, to become more complex, which is increased intelligence. Now trust me. That is life's preference. The reality of it is right in front of you. But now, what I was going to ask yourself this, but ask yourself objectively. It's just a cheap joke. Do you share that feeling with life? Now, everybody doesn't. People commit suicide. People do things less than materially destroying themselves on the 3D level. People insult themselves. The individuals in the human race, this collection of molecules referred to as individuals, each one of them is not in any given time, or not even in their whole lifetime, taken as a four-dimensional holograph. You could not look at any particular person and say, well, that person, they were really in there, they were exemplary in what you described as life's preference to grow, to become more complex, and become more intelligent. It's not necessary that you see that every individual, or any particular individual, seems to represent that for their whole life. Now we're talking about ordinary people, but now I'm talking to you. If you do not share, that is, if you're one of the ones that almost fall into the level of me saying, well, we can't use you as an example of life wanting to grow and become more complex, can we? And you go, no, I don't guess we can. When's the next meeting? We're going to meet Friday? What do you think you're up to? If your preference is not to grow, if your preference is not to become more intelligent, to increase the complexity that is you here, the rest of it's fine. If you want to lose weight, gain weight, but this is what we're talking about. This is what life is talking about to itself through man. If you do not share that personal feeling for your own life, what do you want me to say to you? Look at it another way. It's not a challenge. It's not an attack. That is what has got to be the common denominator between everybody involved with this. It always has been at any time. That's why you can look around, and we don't all look alike by any means here. There seems to be a great divergence of intellectual levels, city-wise, different taste, different feelings about life. But there is a common denominator any time a group of people, that life lets them arrange themselves with activities such as this, and that is that they do share, whether they enumerate it this way or not. And I'm not going to formulate some pledge of allegiance for us to do, but I have given you a fair verbal description of the reality. It's in the blood. You can say the words and you can feel it. That life has a preference. The preference is in any situation, not every situation as you may see it through the facilities of old Big Chief Two Eyes, through your own bifocal vision, but life's preference is to grow, is to increase its complexity, and to be more intelligent. If you belong in this, that's your reason for being alive. That is your personal feeling. Not to be here to like me, not to like the other people here, not to start a cult, not to start a religion, not to spread this and make us all famous, or me famous. I just covered it. The feeling in you, the non-objective feeling, the passion of being alive is to grow. It's for you to expand personally, for you to become more complex and more intelligent. You notice, I said that covered. I didn't notice put in anything about being charitable, decent, good family person, good mother, good father, good husband, good wife, good Christian, good Jew, good Buddhist, good Caucasian, good short person, good male, good female. I said what I meant. It's got to be the passion, the preference, the same way that life has, the preference to expand and grow, to become more complex, and to increase your intelligence. Put a period there, trust me. There is nothing to be gained whatsoever, nothing, by trying to trim up, shape up, refashion, clean up, depress, raise, pull about in any manner the feelings you presently have. If you could be intelligent, just like the dictionary would say, you would then judiciously consider the feelings you do have. And some of them you simply would not entertain. You don't wrestle with them. There's nothing to debate. There's nothing to say, well, they're too strong for me. If they're too strong for you, they're too strong for you. Go back to the city. Become a minister, and then you can denounce them, and you'll feel a lot... Then at least after every sermon, you'll feel a lot better. Why do you think those people do that? But you have got to realize that it is an absolute waste of your energy to even think about feelings just on the basis that some are good and some are bad, and that's your natural feeling about it. You cannot trust that. That is not, pardon me, an objective criteria, is it? That you've got blood flowing in you, and your blood gets to your brain, and it says, some of the feelings you have are untoward, unacceptable. And you go, by God, I believe you're right. Which ones? Do you understand? And you think, well, it's the ones that my religion told me, my mother told me, or some people, my conscience told me. Forget your religion, your conscience, your mother, cut yourself, and there it is. There is the history and the passion of man. There is everything you need to know right there. So the very thing that carried the message to you, that some of your feelings, we should do something about. Yeah, you're right. Do you realize? Are you ready for this? The messenger is the bad news. That's why they can't get it straight in the city. That's why a few weeks ago, I thought maybe some of you would get it. Some of you laughed at the time when I pointed out that a real king would ignore that thing that they say in the city that sounds intellectual and even objective, right? When they say, well, what's the sense of killing the messenger that brings bad news? That won't help. And I kind of pointed out or suggested to you, are you sure? How about a king that doesn't like bad news? He's going to live another 40 or 50 years, and so every time they bring him bad news, he kills the messenger. And I pointed out, and a bunch of them went, yeah, that's kind of... that pretty soon he wouldn't get bad news. And then I went ahead and I played the city intelligence. That someone said, well, wait a minute, that doesn't stop bad news from happening. He just doesn't hear about it. All right, what if he is my kind of king? He says, hey, don't bring me bad news unless it may get me killed personally in the next 24 hours. Other than that, bring me bad news and it's bingo for you. And some of you laughed, some of you looked off, but how about I've just told you what it is now. The messenger is the bad news. Well, some of you thought you heard it the first time I did it. The blood, the information, the energy going to your brain that tells you the feelings that go to your brain and says, some of your feelings are not right. Some of your feelings are not humane, are not decent. And you go, yeah, you're right. Which ones? Well, let's do something about it. The feeling that brought you that is now telling you that. The messenger is the bad news. Nobody can notice it. Every time that messenger comes in, it's always bad news. But in the city, being under the auspices of that great tribe led by Chief Two Eyes, They go, all right, and they even may be used to it, and they go, oh, it's him again. All right, what is it this time? And he says, well, your sire, such and such happened. He goes, well, okay, all right, go away, I'll worry about it. They don't notice. It looks like it's a different story. The messenger is the bad news. You cannot separate. It just is. How do you believe in any way that you can select feelings that you have, that some are good, I can classify some as acceptable, and some are not. And I'll work on some, I'll try and improve these others, and some of them I'll try and repress. They are the bad news. They are the news. There is nothing whatsoever to be done operating on that basis.